Hi, it's Sandy Parker and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to be making a replacement cutting plate for our die cutting machine. I hope you'll stay tuned. Well, I've made one of these before, but this one I got at the Dollar Tree. And I figured if I can make one out of a Dollar Tree cutting mat, we can make it out of anything, correct? I think we're all on the same page with that. So this is the plates that I use on the top and the bottom of my Vagabond. I have a Vagabond. It's very similar. It's made by Sizzix. It's very similar to the they're called Big Shots, I think. Very similar to those, but mine is electric. And I'm going to run my pencil down the side of this so that I have a nice line that I can see. I hope you can see the line. Then I'm going to also get another Dollar Tree purchase, and that is their chopping mats. I'm only going to need one of these. Well, I'm only going to need part of one of these. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to add this to our project for thickness. This is what the size of one of those cutting mats is. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line it up to the edge of our mat using my little pencil, going around the edge of it. That's all you need your pencil for, and your cutting mat for right now. I'm going to show you the one I made, geez, I don't know how many years ago it's been. This is what it looks like. I've used this mat non-stop. I've never changed it out. This is the only one I use, and this is the cutting mat from the Dollar Tree that I adhered to the bottom of it, and this is the thickness. You want to make sure, thickness wise, that your plates are the same thickness as the plates, the plastic one that I said we were done using for now, this one. You want to make sure that they're the same thickness as this when you're done. That's why we're adding this extra piece as like a shim. So you're going to need scissors. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz scissors that are made to cut just about anything. And I'm going to just cut down one side of this. And again, if I can cut this, I believe just about anybody can, because you know I have very poor strength. When you're done with this extra piece, you're going to either use it as a ruler or get rid of it. But it would work as a ruler because it's got the inch marks on it. I'm going to go to the other end, and there's our little ruler. If you want an 8-inch ruler, there you go. So I'm just going to keep that up there just in case I decide to use it for that. Now, I'm not worried that it's a titch longer than this. It's about maybe 1/8 of an inch longer. I'm not really worried about that. Will I fix it? Yes, but I'm not really worried about it, because I want to make sure that that none of you have issues with yours going through your machine. So I'm gonna cut it just because of that. I don't want anybody to have a problem with their machine. So I don't know if you saw that. I just did the same thing where I just ran my pencil along the edge of that so that we have straight edge. If you don't have a Dollar Tree, your craft stores should have these. They're in the sewing department, and they're a mat that's used. It's a self-healing cutting mat, so that over time you can fix the cuts in it just by rinsing it in warm water. I don't know if it'll still work on mine. That's been pretty well beaten, but I could always give it a try. I have done it. I have cleaned it before. Okay, same thing with this. Then I used the last time and it worked. I don't know if there's something better you could use, like maybe E6000 would work in the long run for this, but last time when I made it, I just used tear tape. And I ran several rows. I'm going to put it on this side because I like the way that you can line things up on this, even though most of the time you're not lining things up in your die cutting machine. But I like the idea of it. I guess that's what I should have said. I like the idea of it being made to be straight or whatever. I'm just going to put several rows. I want to make sure that in the long run that the pieces don't separate from each other. And I'll also run a piece of tear tape across the top and the bottom too. This is a very fast project. If you didn't already figure that out, it's something that should save you a lot of money in those cutting plates, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I used to change out those cutting plates a lot because they would look so bad and they would get so warped. And this, I'm going to show you it again. It's not really warped. It's in for as long as I've used it. I'm going to figure out when it was I did that last video. I'll look at the date on it, and I'll put that right here on the screen so you know how long I've had this and used it. And I've used it really hard. And, you know, I've done a lot of die cutting. So I just want to make sure you understand that this isn't a project that falls apart fast on you like you would think it would, because it's, you know, you're thinking, well, geez, oh man, it's just using Dollar Tree products. That's true, but it worked. I don't know why it worked so well, but it did. Your die cutting plate can't be facing up with this piece facing up when you cut. You always want to put it in so that this is what you're cutting onto. So you're always going to have your paper and your die facing down on this, not on this side, because this is what is made for cutting, and it's the thing that's going to protect. It's made to do this, so it's not like this piece where it could at any moment have an issue. If you have any of the clear plastic sticking out under, you know, out of one end, you're going to want to cut that off. So here is my new piece. There's the thickness of it. I'm going to compare it thickness wise to this piece, because these need to be the same thickness, and it looks like they are. If they aren't, then it won't cut well, and if it doesn't cut well, then I need to add another shim to it. And another shim means I'm just going to cut another piece of the cutting mat. I would just take another piece of this and I would add it to the bottom to make sure. But before I do that, I thought I would run a piece of paper through the machine with an intricate die and see if it cuts, and if everything lines up properly, and if it's not an issue to cut, because clearly the whole point of this is that it works to cut. But it's not thick enough, I don't think. I think I'm going to have to put a second shim on there. So all we're going to do is we're going to add tear tape to this one, just like we did the last one, and we want to make sure that it's adhered to the other plate. The only thing I would maybe suggest doing, and I wouldn't suggest doing this to anywhere near the edges of this, but I would maybe suggest using a little bit of E6000 on the center of this plate to make sure that it adheres to its buddy, because I'm not sure that the tear tape is going to be that effective in holding those two plates together. So if you do this, be very mindful of where that E6000 is, and don't put a ton on there because you don't want it to ooze out. Because remember, your machine is going to squeeze this so that it's really, really flat. So when it does that, it's going to also squeeze your glue so it's really, really flat. And when it does that, you don't want it to squeeze it anywhere near the edges. So that's where I have it. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. And then I'm going to just lay this. I'm going to really make sure that I push down on this so I can get that glue to adhere. And then I want to trim my edges. If you don't trim your edges well, this plate is going to get stuck in your machine and you're going to ruin your machine. So make sure that you measure it well and then trim all these little edges to make sure it goes through the machine cleanly when you do it. So I put it through my die cutting machine, and I used a piece of cardstock for extra pressure just because this is such a thin die, and it cut perfectly. I didn't have any issues with it not being able to come out of the die, because this is, I'm sure you can see, this is a very, very thin die. And we all have dies like this that you dread using because they're so hard to use. That's why I chose this for this particular idea, because I wanted to make sure you saw that when it comes to using easy dies, I could have used a really easy, a die that's super thick and has like 3 cuts on it, but that wouldn't have showed you whether or not this cuts or not. There is congratulations. So I hope that if you're in the market for new cutting plates for your die cutting machine, that you consider making your own. It isn't hard. You saw how long it took me. It doesn't take very long at all. And if you need it to be thicker for your particular brand of machine, I would just keep playing with it until you get the right thickness by using more of those cutting mats from the Dollar Tree. I think that these really do a nice job, and for much longer than the other ones that we used did. And I don't know if you can see this, right there is where the congratulations went through the machine. And it's not even, when the very first time you use a regular cutting plate and you run a die through it, you can see that like nobody's business. But these do a great job, and if you wet it and let it set, it usually just comes right back up. So that's my plan for you guys. If you want to try it and save yourself some money on plates, I wouldn't go back to the old system. I have, let me tell you 2 other things. Well, 1 other thing. When I am using my machine, I use the magnetic platform. This is just for cutting dies. And then I put this in next, then the paper with the die, and then this plate. That's how I cut on mine. And if you do it that way, this plate doesn't get all cut up either. And that's nice because I like it when my plates don't look all hacked up. The only time that they do look bad is when you cut into them, and sometimes I make the mistake of cutting into them. The other thing I will tell you about these is, I don't know if you can see this, but I've been using this same cutting plate since I made this. I'll show you both of them together. Can you see both of them together? This one has a little bit of a bend in it, but this one has almost no bend, and I haven't done anything other than flip it over. Like, and when I use it, if it seems like it's a little bendy one way, then I flip it over the other way. But I always put my things in the exact same way. I always put the magnetic platform, then this face with this facing up, my cardstock, my die, and then this plate. And then that's how I do it every time. And you can see how battered and beat up this is, but it still works like a champ. That's my recommendation. I hope you enjoyed this, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and please tell your friends about me on social media, because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.